Former Everton and England man Trevor Steven jets in from Dubai, whilst Bahrain coach Anthony Hudson made the short flight across the pond to Doha. Welcome, guys. Your first show with us, Anthony.
Yep.
So tell us why are you coaching here in the Middle East then? What brought you over?
I came out here a couple of years ago with Peter Taylor when he was the coach of the national team, and as I say, I've stayed on. I was with the under-23s, and now I'm coaching the national team.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Pretty young guy. We shouldn't talk about age too much, but quite an achievement, isn't it?
Yeah. No, it's been good. It's been a great experience. It's been you know, with the under-23s we did very well, and it's just a great experience in terms of the culture and you know, the obviously the qualification and the tournaments. It's been fantastic. It's been very good.
I was reading today, Harry Redknapp described you as the next Jose Mourinho.
Yeah. Crazy, huh? Silly comment.
You've got the beard.
Only with the beard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've had quite an education, haven't you? Because you worked with Harry at Spurs, Bielsa in Bilbao. You worked with Jose briefly in Madrid, albeit in an observational capacity. So you've done your.
Well, I haven't worked with them, but I've gone out and watched and studied, and there's a lot of top managers that I want to go and learn from. But I have been very, very fortunate in people like Harry. You know, you mentioned the comment he said, but more importantly, they've just been a huge help to me, and always on the other end of the phone and advice, and so I've been very fortunate like that.
And Trev, not to make you feel too old or anything.
How do you coach sort of fair play? How do you put that in your players? Tell them to
I think
keep it clean.
Well, you're talking about Rooney. I think if a player's got that in him, it's very difficult to change it.
You can't coach that out of play, can you?
No, it's difficult. I think if a player keeps causing your team problems by getting booked and sent off, you've got the bench. You can use the bench. There's little things you can do in training, to keep on top of it. But I think if he's got that in him, and sometimes, like we said, some players you don't want them to lose that, and you have to take a little bit of that. But certainly, if a player keeps costing the team, you've got the bench. That's your biggest tool.
Yeah, it's, again, the fact that was fairly early on.
Okay, Anthony, I'll give this one to you. Who needs this the most? Which manager is under most pressure?
Yeah, I think after the game against Man City, I think Tottenham need it the most. Just to take, I mean, if you look at the table, the points, it's all very close. Everyone gets carried away, but I think Tottenham need it the most after last week. Themselves more time to bed in.
Is it hard being a young coach? Do you get more respect from players if you're older? Do you have any? I mean, do you have players occasionally playing for you now who are older than you are? Is that tough?
There's some older players. Yeah, I think whether you're a young or an old manager, you face different problems. You have pros and cons. So, whereas I might have things that work in my favour as a young coach, they might work against an older coach. If that makes sense. But I think I've always been a young coach in comparison to my players ever since I started coaching. So I've always worked with senior players. So, but it's good. It's always a challenge. As I say, an older coach with a big CV and power and a name can come in and do certain things where I might have to sell things a little bit differently and do a little bit extra work.
Is AVB still? Is he a name yet, or does he still have to prove himself? What, 36?
Well, I think he's still got a good CV. He did well in Portugal, and he's regardless of what we say about Chelsea, it didn't work out, but he will have learnt a great deal from that experience. And you must have something about you to work at two very big clubs in England, with some big footballers. So I think he's there for a reason.
I read a stat.
A little bit old, a bit, haggard. Does that make you think maybe I should have carried on playing or got into coaching? Look at Giggs, he's fit as a fiddle, isn't he?
It's incredible, really, what he's done, and I think and not only how he is as a player, it's a great example for not only young players and senior players, but also for coaches, just the way he lives his life. But I stopped playing when I was quite young, and I think I had a little bit of a stop-start career as a young player, and I kind of fell into coaching, and I realised this is what I want to do, and I felt I had a chance to go to the top. So that was it. I decided then I was just going to do everything I possibly could. I started learning, taking my licences. So and it was the right decision. It was the best thing I ever did, and I love it. I fell in love with it, and but it was interesting. I was listening to what he was saying about the manager and consistency with the same manager. And I think that's so important in all clubs, and especially for development. I mean, I just wonder if it had stayed and played as many games if Man United had maybe 10, 12 managers, you know, in that period. I don't know if that would have been the case. So I think a big key there is having the same manager, and because a new manager comes in, buys new players, and constantly changing the style and the ethos and the players. So I think it's incredible what he's done, and I think a big part of it is Alex Ferguson and the consistency, which is what he said. I thought it was very interesting.
So obviously Gus Poyet's trying to get that going a bit better.
Is that hard for you as well, with all your players being separated in the domestic leagues? How do you get them together? Do you take them paintballing, McDonald's? What do you do?
It's sponsored by McDonald's. That's a good point.
It's an interesting one, because we've since I came, I'm very much from in England, where we do all this stuff off the pitch and go-karting and paintballing. But in Bahrain, and Peter Taylor, when he was the manager, I used to ask him, you know, can I do this with my team? And it's just a different culture here, and they don't do things like that off the pitch. And so there's a lot of things, and you come into this job, and you have to really learn and respect the culture. But it is very different in that sense, and we don't tend to get together off the pitch. I think the best team building times for us is when we go away and spend a period of time in a hotel. We're all together and we train, and you get your bonding that way because you eat together and all that sort of stuff. But in terms of organising dinners and go-karting, it's never really well received. You know.
How's your Arabic as well, I suppose? Is that a barrier between them?
Well, I have a translator.
Oh, okay.
So that's hindered my learning of Arabic.
Okay.
Yeah, slowed you down a bit. Yeah.
Slowed me down. But it's you know, there are, you know, in your group there's 2 or 3 players that speak English. You have your translator, and I think as you go along, you just work your way through it and how to get your message across, and that. But it's really not a problem.
Do you have to tell your translator to really, like, come on, I want you to give it some this game because I really want to get this message across?
That's actually something that I've always found really strange. You know, when you've got that passion as a manager, how do you have your translator give the passion? You can say the words, but the passion and the delivery of that. Yeah. And how do you? Who's your translator?
We have one of the assistant coaches. He's a translator. You just find your way. I mean, I remember one time after a game, I went crazy, and I looked at my translator, ready for him to translate it, and he just looked at me, and went, "They understand." And I think you just find your way. You know, I just. You know, you tell certain players that speak English certain things because you know they're going to get the message across in a different way. You tell a captain, so you find your way ultimately. The players know, and the more messages, basic messages you get across, they start understanding. They start tying things what they mean together, and so it's about finding your way.
Are you technical, or you want to pick up a cup and throw it and swear and shout?
It's interesting, I think, because like you said, we don't have a lot of time together with the team. So we try and use so many different ways of getting our message across, and the language is a difficult thing. You know, we use laptops. We are constantly having lots of short meetings, video meetings. If we're in the hotel, we want to show little clips. I know a lot of clubs do this, but we sort of overload them, immerse them with information, because there is this language barrier. And even though I'm saying one thing in a meeting and it's getting translated, at times it does get lost in translation, and it's not totally accurate. So it's just constant getting your message across. So it's videos, so it's talking, so it's one-on-ones, so constant, you know, on the training pitch. So you have, for me, as many ways you can get your message across on how you want your team to play is very, very important. Of course, though, Mourinho was a translator. That's how he started, wasn't it? So, and you went and worked with him. What did you actually learn from Mourinho with your time? Well, I didn't work. I went and spent some time there and observed and studied. And I think I was quite lucky because I went at the period, maybe it was around this time last year, when he was under a load of pressure, and he just dropped Casillas. And I mean the pressure, the press over there. I mean, he was public enemy #1, and so I went at a time that was perfect for a young coach to go and see, because I'm thinking, first of all, I thought he's probably going to cancel this because he's under so much pressure. But honestly, with the amount, and they just got beat by, I think, Malaga heavily just before Christmas. It was a really, really bad time. But going in there around this period, it was as if he was top of the league, winning every game. Well, the life is great, and there was no pressure. And it was a great.
Do you just watch, or do you get involved in the sessions?
Didn't get involved in the sessions. I watched and asked him questions, and after training, sat down and went over my notes and just watched and asked loads and loads of questions. And I just think, you know, there's lower league managers in England that probably wouldn't give you that time.
Yeah.
You know, and a man as huge as Mourinho to open his door, to give you his time. It was a great lesson for me on how you should be with people and that personal touch. But the biggest thing I came away with, you know, in that period, I just knew that's a coach who can get through any. He's bigger than any problem. Just the way he carried himself in that moment. So it was a great. There was no care, no worry, no stress in the world. You know,
was Trevor saying Swansea were going to
group of our team to prepare for the Asian Cup.
That's who you're up against. Yeah.
Can you win that? Is that realistic, or is it difficult to look past those top three: Australia, Japan, South Korea, who have been so dominant over the last decade or so?
You know, Japan frightening. You know, some of the teams in there, but I think. You know, we've got a lot of work to do between now and then. It's not just going to be a couple of months before where you can just prepare and turn up. You know, this to be competitive at that level in 2015. The work starts now, and it's for a country like ours, it's preparation in all areas. You know, because you know, a lot of these Japanese players play for top teams all around Europe and Asia. You know, whereas our players are in our domestic league, the majority, and the domestic.
In Qatar?
Yeah, there's a few in Qatar.
Can I ask you how much access do you get to your players to work with them? Because that's always the difficulty being an international manager, isn't it?
Yeah, it's we're always trying to fight for extra days. You know, you get your FIFA days, which is, you know, if you're England, it's very rigid, and you got those FIFA days, but. I mean, I'm always trying to sort of fight for more days, and I think the nearer we get to the tournament, the more time we'll get. But it's very important because, you know, the domestic league, the pace of the league is a lot slower than international level. So as soon as we get the players, it's then a case of initially getting them up to just a pace where you can be competitive, and then you've got to start doing your tactical work. So we need more time with our team, more time on more contact time, more time on the training.
Do you need me to come and do the turn back?
Right, before we finish, what a career he's had.
Will he add to that? 11 tomorrow, do we think?
I hope so. I hope he plays at some stage, but I think he's a great example to young players and senior players, because we got some senior players in Bahrain coming into their 30s. And I think, you know, you just look at Giggs and what he's doing and how he lives and looks after himself. They're great example for all players.
He puts it